Let's call this meeting to order. City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regular council meeting, June the 4th, 2019. Could we have a moment of silence? Okay, comments from the public? Yeah, okay.
Hi again. I came up here and, sorry, Joe Gower. I'm founder of the River North District and the Pine Path event, and I'm involved in the second Saturdays that go on monthly here in North Kansas City. Stood up a little bit earlier during the work session to talk about some of the things that Second Saturday could use in the proposal that was happening there for increased focus on tourism in North Kansas City. And I wanted to kind of add on to that as well. So the connection between Second Saturday and River North, just to kind of spell that out a little bit more. River North it's a pending 501c6 business league right now. It's currently, we're getting the papers worked through with the IRS on that. But it's membership based, and so we charge member dues for all of the requirement to be in is you have to be a local bar, restaurant, shop, storefront of some sort, and along sort of those main corridors of Armour and Swift, and then 18th and Clay as well. And so our main thing that we do with the River North is on our website we host a calendar, which is sort of a district-wide calendar. It's got everyone's events going on any single given day, any given week. It's a pretty full calendar. If you go on there sometime, it's rivernorthkc.com. There's an events page you can click there, and it's pretty full. You look at all the lots of live music going on around North Kansas City, which is pretty neat to see. And so that's the basic function of what we do. On the side of that, Second Saturdays got started up, as I said a little bit earlier, by Heather Collinsworth and Christine Fontland of Paper Birch Gallery. And with Paper Birch's exit from North Kansas City, Christine, who was the admin on it, she was doing a lot of the volunteer time and effort getting news out about everything going on in town. She left the admin stuff to me and said, because I was helping her out with sort of getting it founded, that she wanted me to run the Second Saturday stuff month to month and kind of see what we can do with it. That fell outside of the responsibilities that we set up with our board and with our members for River North. So we separate that out, and also because we want the idea of Second Saturday, if it truly is going to be something that's town-wide, that the whole city participates in, it's not going to be contingent on having a membership standing with our organization. So our organization being one that can hold custodial assets, that's why the ask is to have River North hold that for Second Saturday. Second Saturday not actually being an organization that can, has a bank account or anything like that. So technical, wonky stuff, but I wanted to kind of explain that a little bit further. Oh yeah, just one other thing too. The mayor mentioned Town Square as a possible epicenter for Second Saturdays and townwide events and things like that. I couldn't agree more. I think it's got a great location there by chapels and across the street from places like Colony and places like that. And I mean, that'd be a fantastic place to pop up some of the retailers around here. I know some of the small shops have the ability to do some vending in there, and there's a lot of different possibilities we can do with getting different businesses to collaborate with each other and to just kind of be a good common space for everyone. So, wayfinding around town, that's going to be kind of a big thing too, especially with this new paid lot that's going in. One thing that a lot of our members, when that was coming up, was I think they like the idea of that lot getting a good treatment, and they like what that's going to do to help out repeal and chicken and pickle. But they also want to make sure that it's not going to be people's first impression when they do come to town and they want to explore the area, that this isn't a town that's full of paid parking. And so the wayfinding has to be very visible, very well lit at night. So we just want to make sure that everything's being explored and making sure that wayfinding is good and proper. So that's all I had to say. Thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none. Consent agenda.
I move the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 8.
Approval of sewer pretreatment ordinance, Bill number 7370, ordinance number 9167.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the Public Works Director, Pat Hopper.
Thank you. In late 2016, the city was contacted by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, otherwise known as EPA, advising the staff that certain violation had occurred in the city's sewer pretreatment program. On February 7, 2017, the city entered into an administrative ordinance of compliance with the EPA outlining how these violations would be addressed. One of the city's commitments per the order of compliance was to draft a revised sewer use ordinance containing the required pretreatment streamlining regulations changes which were adopted by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources in 2012. The city worked closely with the EPA and the DNR staff to draft the required ordinance. On February 5th, 2019, the City Council approved the submittal of a draft ordinance to the DNR, which then conducted a public comment process. There were no comments received. The Department of Natural Resources has notified the city that it may proceed with the council's consideration of approval of this ordinance. This is the final task that must be completed to be released from the EPA order of consent.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance, amending ordinance number 7153 and amending chapter 13.08 sewer service system of the code of the city of North Kansas City, Missouri by repealing Article 3 thereof and enacting a new Article 3 wastewater pretreatment and enforcement.
I move that bill number 7370 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9167.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Steffen?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 7153 and amending chapter 13.08 sewer service system of the code of the city of North Kansas City, Missouri by repealing Article 3 thereof and enacting a new Article 3 wastewater pretreatment and enforcement.
Okay, 9.
License agreement, 13th Avenue parking lot, parking space allocation, bill number 7378, ordinance number 9175.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the City Councilor, Tom Barzee.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. As you're aware, before you this evening is an ordinance that, if approved, would grant a license agreement to FPG Cable LLC. That's an entity that's is under contract to purchase the cable building from, I believe it's, if I remember right, BBC Ventures. To give you a little bit of a slight bit of the history, that parking lot down on 13th Avenue, the city assembled the property back in 2008 by entering into an agreement with the cable building people, with John Miller's group, Store Safe 7, as well as the city. It acquired, acquiring railroad right-of-way, the city purchased a small piece of property. Then those existing landowners, meaning John Miller's property as well, BBC Ventures, donated the land that they had. They gave it to the city, provided that the city construct and build a full-surface parking lot down there, which the city council approved and authorized back in '08. Shortly thereafter, the cable building people sold the southern half of the building to Trigen Partners. It's a group of people that was Luchin, the engineers, and it was based upon that they came here. Each of the entities was allocated a specific number of parking spots. I might add, as part of this, Luchin did the engineering work basically at their cost. They did not have a standard type of a contract with the city. From that, we ended up with 266 parking spots. And then the cable building group, because of the percentage of property they had put into the pie, so to speak, they got 110 of those 266. John Miller's group, Storsay 7, got 80. The city ended up with 76. Cable building ended up, like I said, sold part of the building to Luchin, and of their 110, they assigned of their 110, they assigned 75 to Luchin. Okay, so their number narrowed down, and then we cut another deal with Barbara Cosgrove right there, and they gave an additional 10 of their parking spots to her. So the cable building itself, as stands today, has only allocated to it 25 unassigned parking spots. The city, about a year and a half ago, as some of you may remember, the city, at the request of Olson, who had acquired Luchin, they wanted to move from their Briarcliff location down here, but they didn't have enough parking. And at that time, they came and they requested a license agreement for 30 spots for an 8-year term. The city granted that to them. So out of our 76, we ended up now, we're down to 46 spots. Scott Fricker, who's the one who owns FBG Cable that's under contract to buy the property. Mr. Fricker is here this evening. If you have any questions of him. He met with city staff, I believe back in January or February of this year, indicating his concern about acquiring this whole building, and he only has allocated to him 25 parking spots. As staff, we discussed it. The city doesn't have a direct need for those parking spots that are, so to speak, allocated to us. And so before you this evening, if granted, the remaining 46 spots would be under a license agreement that can be revoked like other license agreements if need be for an 8-year term, just like we granted to Olson, would grant to them the right to use these additional 46 parking spots for an 8-year term. I might add that the city maintains and operates this, and under the terms of the original agreement, that was to be free for everybody for 10 years from the commencement date being the date actually not of our acquisition of the property, but when the parking lot was open available, which was August the 9th of 2011, okay? And so 10 years from then would be in 21, then each of these that are allocated parking spots are going to then have to start paying money to the city to help offset the maintenance costs, the operational cost of the parking lot for the remainder of 20 more years. At the end of 30 years from the commencement date, just so you know that would be in 2041. Don't laugh too loud, Mary. That's just around the corner, you know. But in 2041, what happens is the agreement terminates, and it would be up to a future council to decide what they're going to do with the parking lot at that particular time. So I'll be glad. This, in essence, the license agreement would authorize Mr. Fricker's company to use, and they're all unassigned, all of them, there aren't any assigned ones, but use for his part to use an additional 46 parking spots so that he could effectively, he believes, lease his building. And like I say, he'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have, but I thought that I would outline the background a little bit to this so that you understand what this was about.
Yeah, I had no problems with it at all. I mean, realistically, that's why the parking lot was built down there, to help service the businesses there. There was no parking before, I don't think, maybe a little bit, but mainly street parking. But this is what the parking lot's for. You know, we don't need it per se for residents down there, but I have no problem with it.
I'm definitely in favor of it as well. My only question is, I mean, we definitely, if we have the businesses down there and to get tenants, we need to have parking for them. If we ever needed it, like for a festival, I'm not sure that we would have anything down there or not. What would ever happen if, like, the city needed it for like a weekend event or something? If we did have a festival down there or something, I'm not saying we would,
Right.
but
First of all, the license agreement can be revoked and
without revoking. I mean,
by
we
us
wanna-
at any time. And Scott, do you remember? I don't remember. Was it 120 days, 90 days? Do you remember what it was? It's some, anyway, it's less, it's 6 months or less. We would have to give him notice and we could just automatically terminate it. And of course, the underlying agreement as well, that you may not know, that was passed when we had started all this back in 2008. For example, if, let's say, things really grew down there to the point where the city said, we need to do structured parking, we have an ability to terminate all of this to come in and do something like that. I mean, there are other things that we can do. We tried to figure out as many things as we could at the time, but these are parking spots that, you know, so far, there hasn't, in knock on wood, there won't be, but there has not been an overuse of it by any means. And, you know, many of the spots just remain vacant every day.
Well, and I was just looking at, you know, and if that ever happened, and I wouldn't certainly want to revoke a license agreement just for a festival, but, so that was my only question, but I'm in favor of granting a license agreement as well.
This is where the Black on Burlington, and that is that.
Yes.
Done.
I was just trying to, I'm taking a look at a map here, off Swift between 13th and 14th. Which building are we talking specifically
Oh,
about?
sure. I'm sorry. If the specific building that if you look at, well, it can be shown on any of them, but we are talking about, wish I had it up on the screen. This is exhibit, well, let me see. The easiest thing is to look at exhibit, I believe it's called A.
Page up from Exhibit
Yes,
B on the memo.
Exhibit A, if you look at A and you see where Burlington is, right on Burlington, the big white roof there that you see, that's where Olson is now, Luchin. They own that building. Now, originally, that was owned under the same ownership. The next building up, if you will, and it runs from that white part all the way up to where it gets to be solid white again on the north part. So their building is basically the middle, it's probably almost half of that total block, but there's a third on each side. If you see, that's where it is.
Okay.
Am I sort of telling you where it is?
Yep.
Mr. Smith?
I've got you. I've got a street view up now. I can see which one. What's the intended use on that building?
Why don't you step up to the microphone, Mr. Fricker?
Hi, my name's Scott Fricker. There's no anticipated change of use. It's currently office for the most part, and there's an event space there, Black on Burlington. There's no planned change in use. The operator of the event space is not sure she's going to stick around for the long run. So if that happens, if she leaves, we may convert that space to office, which really would be the biggest user of the parking spaces that we're talking about. I mean, right now, the event space uses parking in the evenings and weekends. So they really don't put a burden on that parking lot. But if we convert to offices, then that'll change.
Yeah, you need parking during the day. Do you have any, anticipated need for the park? You said 25 probably wouldn't be enough, but.
Well, it's a 50,000 square foot building. I mean, the ideal parking for that building would be 150 spaces.
Okay.
We currently have 25.
Okay. Fair.
So, we try and get as much parking as we can.
Sure, and that seems very reasonable. The concern and the reason I ask is that parking has become quite a hot discussion around town, and
Yeah.
with interest so sort of spreading down Swift with, Velo Garage and the Brewery and those kind of places opening up, and more is shifting down that way. I worry that if we assign 46 spaces, that that's one of the very few surface lots we have in that area. I don't think it's an unfair request, though. So,
Yeah.
and with an agreement maybe from the city that there would be some ability to use those for other things, like festivals or whatnot, down in that direction. I don't know what the terms, I haven't been able to parse through the whole contract.
That parking lot's pretty vacant on weekends,
Okay.
and I'm sure the property owners in that surround it would be happy to,
Yeah, it's pretty hidden too, from what I
especially
can tell.
considering the leverage you have of canceling the contract.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
If I could just add, the parking lot doesn't have any signs that say parking restricted to Olson or this or that. Yes, the spaces are assigned, but not in any kind of a assigned way. So basically, if the spaces are open and people choose to park, especially like for Snake Saturday or something,
Yep.
it's available.
As a matter of fact, just so everyone knows, to answer your question directly on that, Mr. Smith, the original agreement back in '08, it specifically provides that it calls them the easement users, that's all of the people that are authorized to use it, are permitted to use the designated parking spots as provided here, and between the hours 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays, or between 7 a.m. and noon on Saturdays, except for any such weekday or Saturday, and then it lists a whole bunch of holidays, et cetera. So in other words, technically, they do not have the right to use it 24/7 today.
Okay. It's perfectly
Right,
reasonable
that's
request.
right.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance adopting and approving a license agreement by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and FPG Cable LLC for parking purposes in the 13th Avenue parking lot.
I move that bill number 7378 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9175.
Second.
Call roll.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
An ordinance adopting and approving a license agreement by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and FPG Cable LLC for parking purposes in the 13th Avenue parking lot.
Okay, number 10.
Budget Amendment Armor Road Complete Street Project, Resolution Number 19-032.
Mary?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the Community Development Director, Sarah Copeland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll actually discuss this item and the one that follows it, the award of contract, together, since they go together, and start by giving you some background. In November of 2017, you adopted the Armor Road Complete Street Plan that called for improvements to Armor Road that would provide a safe travel environment for all users, vehicles, pedestrians, and bicycles, in a sustainable, visually appealing, and economically vibrant way. And so our 2018 and 2019 budgets both showed 4 phases of improvements to Armor Road, with the largest phase, Phase 1, being originally budgeted in fiscal year 2018. And we opened bids for that project last September, right before our budget workshops, and all of the bids were above our engineer's estimate and above the amount that we had budgeted for that project. So we did not award a bid, and we discussed with you at that budget workshop pushing that project back to rebid this spring, and with the understanding, based on your direction at that budget workshop, that we would do a budget amendment this spring for basically pushing back all of those phases a year. So Phase 1 happening in 2019, Phase 2 being pushed back to 2020, et cetera. So we worked with WSP, the engineer selected for this project, to reconfigure the bids. We have a lot more add alternates shown in this bid that we rebid this spring. And opened bids in the beginning of May and got 3 bidders bidding on this. So what's shown in the budget for this year is a $73,000 project, but what was put out to bid is obviously that larger Phase 1 project that requires now a budget amendment before we can award the bid. Looking at the bids, then, we have a base bid that includes the installation of bike lanes from Fayette to Ozark Street. Between Fayette and Lynn, the bike lanes would be parking protected with new on-street parallel parking spaces between the bike lane and the vehicle travel lane. And then between Lynn and Ozark, the bike lanes would be separated from the vehicle travel lanes by a 4-foot buffer area. This does have the result of creating a road diet for Armour Road, so we would be extending the 1 travel lane and 1 center turn lane from where it is downtown east to Lynn, and then we would have 2 travel lanes in each direction with the center turn from Lynn to Ozark. Then we had, this would also include improved bus stops, new curb ramps at Armour and Howell, new signage along Armour Road, including new truck route signs, and some signal modifications to line up the traffic signals with the vehicle travel lanes. Then we had a number of alternates for additional work associated with this project to give us a chance to evaluate how the prices came back to us. Looking at the 3 bids we received, and based on our review of all of the alternates, we are recommending Gunter as the lowest and best bidder and choosing the base bid, alternate B, which is mid-block crossings, and alternate F, decorative crosswalks. Alternate B addresses one of the key elements of the plan that was focusing on safe street connections for pedestrians to connect residents who mostly live on the north side of Armour Road to some key destinations on the south side of the road. And alternate F meets the goal of improving aesthetics along the corridor. The decorative crosswalks that we did as part of our pop-up demonstration project were one of the most popular recommendations with residents. And so we're excited about being able to include those in the base bid. We're also recommending the purchase and installation of delineators, which were included in alternate C by Public Works crews. This is going to be more economical for us in that we can provide the labor in-house. Public Works has indicated that they can do this, and that allows us to purchase the delineators for a lower cost. So altogether, the project cost, including the rebid services from WSP, would come in at $442,226. And so we would recommend the amendment of the 2019 budget in the amount of $369,227, and then awarding a contract to Gunter Construction. I would be happy to answer any questions about this.
No, all of this work is east of Fayette.
This work is all east of Fayette.
All of it's east of Fayette.
Yes, sir.
When you get them down to Fayette, what are you going to do with them?
Well, when you get down to Fayette, if you're westbound on your bicycle, you have a choice of riding on the sidewalk or making a turn and going into the neighborhood. It would depend on what your destination is.
Couple of things on the mid-block crossings. Are those like what you're saying, mid-block then, to where you don't have to go down to a light?
Yes,
to cross?
exactly.
Okay.
Those are allow you to make a cross. We have some very long blocks on Armour Road once you get out of downtown, and so that would allow for people to cross the street and have a refuge island in the middle in that center turn, so you could stop and then look and see if it was safe to continue crossing the street.
Okay. And then the only other question is too on the parallel parking where it protects the bike lane. And I don't know if it's the same issue and I don't know if we would have that issue. I saw something on TV about Armour Boulevard where they were having trouble with sight lines because the cars were parked out further in the roadway, but I don't know if that would affect, any of the businesses, people coming out of the businesses or not. Or like I said, I'm not a visual person, so.
Well, that is something, our plans were prepared by WSP, and there are some spots where I said to them, well, why isn't there a parking space at this spot? And their answer was sightlines. So
Okay,
that is
so they took
something
that
that they took into consideration in preparing these plans. There are spots where once it's all marked, you might wonder, couldn't you have squeezed another car in here? And maybe, but it would have impeded sightlines for
Good, I'm glad they
cars
looked.
turning.
Okay, could you describe what alternative D1 and D2 were?
Sure. So we said bike protection. Those were two different forms of bike protection in the area between Lynn and Ozark. Alternate D1 was curb stops with delineators, like you'd see in a parking lot. If you're, and alternate D2 is a product called Bike Rail, which is a steel rail that bolts down onto the roadway that is about 8 inches tall and can be powder coated in various colors. We were interested in doing something additional in that area where we don't have the parked cars to protect the bike lane. And so we were evaluating different alternatives besides just the delineators and the buffer space.
Is that something we could add in the future?
Those are both
later phase, or?
Those are both items that could be added at some point in the future, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I've heard some chatter now that Quick Trip is closing their location on the north side and moving to the south side farther down. Is there going to be a protected crosswalk to get over to Quick Trip from the neighborhood at that point?
Right, so yes. The interesting thing about rebidding this is that it allowed us to do some additional coordination with Quick Trip. As part of their project, they will have to do some street improvements to Armour Road, particularly further to the east, to allow for a left turn lane into that site, because right now there is no left turn for westbound Armour traffic into the former OUP property. So they've had to do a lot of work with MoDOT on review of plans and getting their approval and eventually to get a permit to do this work. And they've also had to coordinate with us because the dividing line between what is MoDOT right-of-way and what is city right-of-way is basically in the middle of the intersection of Armour and Ozark. So they are, we provided them with the Armour Complete Street Plan and said, whatever you're doing in this intersection needs to comply with our plan. And so they will be making some improvements right there at Ozark that were included in our plan that we knew last fall we didn't have the budget to do, so now it's being done by Quick Trip, which is nice. And some of the bike lane on the north side of Armour Road from Ozark down to about Wendy's will actually be constructed as part of Quick Trip's work in all of the work that they're doing that's mostly in MoDOT's right-of-way. So, yes, it does include that crossing and some additional work to allow people to cross the street right there.
Very good. One other, does any of this involve the part beyond Fayette? Is there anything happening over that way?
No, our work is just between Fayette and Ozark. We are not doing any work further to the west in downtown.
Okay, I can discuss my question at a later time then.
I've liked the project all along. The pop-up shop was great to show people what the decorative side of this will look like. I think it's a step in the right direction, so we're having a better transportation network, and as well as we could use a road diet out there. I mean, plenty of capacity, and hopefully we get some slower cars out there as well. So thank you for your work on this.
I guess got one, and it's only slightly related to this, but we want to make everybody safe. And I was thinking about a thing the other day when I was coming up there. I noticed a semi coming on through town, and as you come up, if you're going westbound on Armour, just about where the bank is, the First Federal, or maybe even Wendy's, I don't know, it says truck route straight ahead. Now, to me, that's confusing if you're not familiar, because just a block away, it's Golden Left, and that's not until you get down there to the Lynn. I think that truck thing straight ahead ought to come off.
And it will. We will be replacing all of the truck route signage as part of this project with new signage that we hope will, I'm sure, as the chief can tell you, you'll always have people who don't read signs.
Oh, sure, but that one is confusing. If I was a trucker, I would have trouble with that one.
We did have some discussions with WSP about the signage and trying to make that clear. That, that where you're supposed to make that left on Lynn is also the spot where the road is going to narrow a little bit. And we hope that will also help people think, maybe I want to turn here. And so our hope is that those things together help get more people complying with that signage.
Thank you.
Using the truck route.
Sometimes when we push off development, in this case, we pushed it off, I guess, a year, in the different phases, we end up paying more because we have pushed it off a year, and so it could be inflation or other types of construction costs have increased. This doesn't look like this happened here. It looked like we were able to push it off a year and not suffer any consequences from that. Is that a true statement, or would you disagree with that?
It's kind of hard to say for sure. One of the things that we did in order to bring down the cost of the project was move things out of including them in the base bid into the alternates. The thing that really pushed this project over our budget last year was the microsurfacing, which in our rebid, we made that an alternate, and the cost on that actually went up even more. So it's interesting, you know, the road district did microsurfacing last year, and they were paying about $2.50 a square foot. In our first original bid, the costs for that were coming in about $4 up to $5 a square foot, if I remember correctly. Now it's being bid at $7.80 to $8 a square foot. I don't know why that continues to go up. I mean, it's definitely a concern because we have roads that need to be resurfaced. So that's really the thing that we took out in order to be able to do this project. But we couldn't afford, that's why it was over budget last
Now,
fall.
would the road district do that microsurfacing for us, or did we get it bid from those contractors?
They did not renew that contract. So that was not we did explore that with them, but they didn't renew the contract this year, so.
To do microsurfacing?
Yeah, they're not doing any microsurfacing this year.
On the bike lane, if that's going to be a protected bike lane, how about the snow removal? I mean, is that going to be affected, or did we just leave it
So
alone?
The
or-
bike lane is wide enough that a snowplow could get down between the bike lane and the buffer space. It's wide enough for a snowplow.
One more question on signal modifications. So will this also have some improvements for pedestrian crossing with the buttons and the responsiveness of buttons?
No, really, the signal modification is
It's
just
for the-
moving the signals so that.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just didn't know if
They're
there's any
not
other work
major
going
signal
into.
modifications.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I do have a quick one. Time frame for, like, say we do move forward with it, how long would we see this whole section shut down, or would it be in phases?
It should not be shut down
Okay.
really at all, because it's mostly striping in the roadway. We're not doing any major reconstruction.
Okay.
So it will be, you know, lane closures as needed to provide space for them to do the work.
Good.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve resolution number 19032.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 11.
Armor Road Complete Street Contract Award, Resolution Number 19-031.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 12.
Municipal Code Amendment regarding medical marijuana, Bill Number 7406, Ordinance Number 9203.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the police chief, Steve Beamer.
Thank you, sir. At the May 7th work session, the city council discussed some options regarding medical marijuana, home cultivation, and changes that we needed to make to our ordinances to accommodate the legalization of marijuana for medical purposes. Before you tonight are a series of ordinances that will enact the proposals that we made at that work session. And just as a reminder, this was a collaborative effort between Sarah, Dave, and myself to get this done. But we will have a provision in the code that requires a permit at no cost before you can do home cultivation. It does place some things, registration, not a permit. Registration. The registration will have some requirements in it regarding making sure that we do not have excessive lighting and other issues that affect the public's health, safety, and welfare. And then the other provisions here regarding possession of marijuana, we did change the current law on possession of drugs to take marijuana out of that and place it in a separate section that does recognize the legal possession for those people that are qualifying patients. If you have any specific questions, be happy to answer them, but I don't want to necessarily rehash everything that we covered on the 7th.
All right. One question, not directly related to that, but are we also going to have to, are you also looking at staff rules, changes in the employee handbook for how to handle medical marijuana?
Yes, sir, we are exploring that, and that would be a separate.
Yeah, that is, okay.
But yes, sir, we are looking at that and getting some guidance on that, and we'll be bringing that to you before the new rules, before the new law takes effect.
Perfect. Thank you.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance amending the code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri by adopting Chapter 8.60 marijuana cultivation and amending Chapter 9.24 offenses against public decency regarding medical marijuana.
I move that bill number 7406 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9203.
Second.
Call roll.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
An ordinance amending the code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri by adopting Chapter 8.60 marijuana cultivation and amending Chapter 9.24 offenses against public decency regarding medical marijuana.
Number 13.
Award of contract wayfinding signage final design, resolution number 19-035.
Larry?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Ms. Copeland.
In March 2017, the City Council adopted an appendix to our Gateway Signage Master Plan that included recommendations for new wayfinding signage. And it included a general design for pole-mounted signs to replace the signs that we currently have up around town that, if you look at them, have clearly reached the end of their lifespan. The estimated cost for the installation of this wayfinding signage was included in the adopted 2019 budget. So the next step in this project to get new wayfinding signs constructed and installed is to do a more detailed final design. Because what's included in the Gateway Signage Master Plan Appendix is pretty general. It's general dimensions and locations around town and some ideas about the content, but does not include enough detail for us to put this out to a construction bid. So we did release a request for proposals to identify a signed contractor to assist us with final design and then to fabricate and install the signage. This was a request for really qualifications because we are requesting based on their qualifications to finish the designs. It's not a construction bid at this point. We had two firms that responded, Star Signs from Lawrence and Graphic House from Wausau, Wisconsin. After reviewing the proposals that we received, we were concerned about the scope of work for Graphic House because it was restricted to one design revision, and the cost estimates that we asked them to provide were contradictory and unclear. Because they haven't worked with us before, we are concerned that more than one design revision may be required to finish this work, and that would drive up the actual cost of the overall project. Star Signs was the firm that fabricated and installed the downtown archway, although they were not the firm that did the design for that sign. They just fabricated it. And so they are familiar with our overall signage concept. So staff recommends moving forward with the contract for final sign design, the development of construction documents for review and approval by the city, finalizing our sign copy, and finalizing the sign locations. The contract for sign construction would be brought before you at a future date. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
We will have an opportunity to approve what the sign looks like before we go ahead with it.
We better check the light.
Yes, this is a contract for the sign design.
Yeah.
And so we would want to, review that They're going to be doing that design, though, to the concept that's in the sign plan. This
Yeah.
is not a full, new design for signs starting from scratch. So we will be reviewing that, and I can see that we will be bringing that to you for you to look at as well.
Okay, 14.
Reapproval of Police and Fire Pension Board Funding Policy, Resolution Number 19-036.
Mr. Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Chief Beamer.
Thank you, sir. In February of 2015, the City Council and the Pension Board met and discussed what was necessary to create a funding policy to outline the circumstances surrounding times when the pension fund may not be at 100% funded, and there may be a need to meet an actuarial recommended contribution in any given year. So that policy was approved originally in 2015. One of the provisions of that policy is that every 5 years, the policy would be reviewed, and if necessary, alterations could be made, or it could be reapproved. The Police and Fire Pension Board, at its May 21st meeting this year, did review the funding policy and determined by vote to forward that policy as it was originally passed 5 years ago to the council for review. If the council chooses to adopt the policy, then we've got that in place for another 5 years. If there are provisions in that policy that you would wish to change, then the pension board asks the mayor to appoint a committee to review the policy and make revisions as needed. And so tonight, on behalf of the pension board, we're presenting this policy to the council for your review and approval.
To approve? Oh, go ahead.
As of now, we're 100%
Vested.
funded. I mean,
At our last, yes, I think we were like at 101%. That was on the actuarial valuation of last October 1.
yeah. And they claim it looks pretty good down the road. Okay, we got a motion?
Question real quick. Sorry, was there any discussion about extending the time frame for review from 5 years to more? I
There
know I'm
was
just-
not.
Okay, I was just curious, because it seems like maybe we could go longer than 5 years, but.
That's true, but then again, if you think about the 5 years that preceded 2015,
Yeah,
there was some difficult times in there for the pension
we
fund
just happen to
and the
have a good
city.
5 years, yes.
We've had a good, we've been, I mean, the pension fund has benefited from some good returns on investment. I think we've made some good decisions in terms of how we're managing the plan overall, and it's been a good 5 years, and we hope we've got another good 5, and all we got to do is review this again in another 5
Okay.
years.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, we got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 15, no,
Yeah,
14.
15.
15.
All right, 15, okay.
Budget amendment, street light and traffic signal repairs, Resolution Number 19-034.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Public Works Director Pat Hopper.
Thank you. The 2018-2019 transportation budget includes $31,500 for repairs of streetlights and traffic signals. There have been several unforeseen expenses for repairs of streetlights and traffic signals in the first 8 months of this fiscal year, and I listed those in my memo to council. The current balance of the account is $8,272. Last week, the Public Works Department received an invoice in the amount of $11,475 from its streetlight and traffic repair contractor, Black & McDonald, for boring and rewiring work that was completed in November. The balance after paying this recent invoice would exceed the amount budgeted by $3,203. Staff recommends the approval of a budget amendment in the amount of $20,000 to ensure adequate funding for streetlight traffic signal repairs is available for the remaining 4 months of the fiscal year. If approved, the balance of the account would be $16,800.
Discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 16.
Budget amendment, replacement of the HVAC unit at Water Pollution Control Facility. Resolution number 19-033.
Would you like a staff report, sir?
Oh, Eric.
I'll call on Mr. Hopper.
2018-2019 water pollution control budget includes $12,000 for building maintenance and repairs. The WPC facility is very old and unanticipated repairs are common. Over the past month, the air conditioner unit has not worked efficiently. Last week, the city's HVAC contractor was called out for the second time and determined that the 15-year-old unit was no longer repairable. Carrier provided a quote in amount of $15,253 to replace the existing unit with a new large, energy-efficient heating and air conditioning unit, which includes an outdoor condensing unit. The cost for the HVAC replacement exceeds the account balance by $12,000. I'm sorry, it exceeds the account balance, which is $12,000, by $3,253. Staff recommends approval of budget amendment in the amount of $9,000, which would cover the cost of the new HVAC unit and allow a balance of $5,747 for funding of unanticipated building repairs for the remaining 4 months of the fiscal year.
Move to approve.
Second.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Number 17, Armor Arch Lighting.
Thanks, sir. Council asked city staff to look at improving the lighting on the Armor Road archway to make the sign more visible at night. At your last council meeting, we provided information to you about the cost of providing a demonstration of a measure that could improve the lighting, and that was quoted, just the demonstration, at $1,180. The estimated cost, if the council wanted to proceed after seeing the demonstration, would be about $3,000. It's been estimated. And at your last meeting, you did ask us if we could provide some pictures of the light arch at night, which we've done. Councilmember Smith also provided a picture, which we provided to you. Perhaps you've had a chance to look at it in person. I don't know. So at this time, we're asking if you have any guidance for us as to whether you'd like us to arrange a demonstration of the mock-up, a mock-up of the lighting to see if you like it and would like to proceed further.
Zach?
Quick, on the demonstration, so that is a one-night thing then? On
Yes,
the
sir.
demonstration, so
We'd have to arrange for it.
$1,180 for a one-night demonstration is what?
Yes, sir. They would need to mobilize. They'd need a lift truck.
Okay. So
There is some labor involved.
Well, I certainly would like to try it out. I've expressed my opinion that I hate that we have to pay that. I know Star Signs is not the one who designed the sign for the arch. But I think it needs a little more lighting. I know some other council members have maybe some other ideas or what have you, but I would like to at least give it a shot. But that's just my opinion, speaking for myself.
Rita?
I actually like the lighting. However, because I think I was not part of that decision-making, but I like the ambiance of it. I think I just like the lighting. It's not like a spotlight into the city. I don't think it was designed to be a spotlight. I think when it was put together, it looks exactly like it was supposed to when it was put together. However, I absolutely have no opposition to having it lit up more for the, nominal cost of $1,180. In discussions prior to sitting down tonight, I understand that the entire lighting, that the entire structure costs $300,000.
A little over $300,000.
Yeah, so I really don't think $1,200 is a whole lot to check out a little bit more lighting.
Well, it's more than that. That's just the one time.
Right, but
Yeah.
then we have to make a decision beyond that.
Right.
I'm not willing to concede that I want it to be brighter. What I'm saying is, I'm okay with spending $1,100 to see what it looks like if it is brighter.
to me, if you're gonna spend $1,000 to just see whether you're gonna like it or not, and if you did, then you're gonna spend another 3,000 or whatever. I'm thinking, why don't we just go ahead and spend the 3,000, forget the $1,000, don't do the experiment, just do it.
Yeah, Sarah, you may have some thoughts about it, or in talking to Star Science, but I guess our concern would be, are you gonna like what they come up with? Had you had any other discussions with the company about? No. So I think that's the reason they're suggesting it, is that it may or may not look better to you, but that is your call. If you chose to just tell us to go ahead and get the work arranged to just do the additional lighting, we could do it that way.
Well, just to be very clear about it, for one night, it would cost $1,180. One night.
That's what's been proposed by the company, yes, sir.
And to do it on a permanent basis, which would really light it up, is $3,000.
Yes, sir.
And I don't think it's bad the way it is.
Go ahead, Brian.
No, you had yours up first.
So I went down there and I took a picture and sent it out. I tend to agree with Mr. Clevenger. It's pretty dark up there. We can see the bottom half of the letters. Now, I wasn't part of the design to approve. I wasn't part of any of that. But when I look at it, I believe the term was a wash of light. And I would classify it as more of a light sprinkle of light. It's pretty dim. And, if there's no other way than doing the 1,180 to have it mocked up, I'm also not certain if there's not a way they could do it computer generated to show us what we expect, and then we could just approve and say, like, yeah, it looks good, and just spend the 3,000, or if we need the actual hard look at it in person. Because I imagine CGI is pretty advanced these days. They could just show us what it would look like with the new strip, and then we could say, yeah, we'll spend that or not. That's my only thought on it.
I don't know that they do that for free. If I were them, I would not be inclined to do the mock-up so we could determine if we want to move forward for no expense.
That's why I voted no.
Well, they wouldn't have to have a lift truck or bring a crew.
Well, that's true, but
and
I'm sure
generators
there'd be a
or-
cost incurred if you asked them to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that would be, $100 versus $1,100. Just guessing. I would say it needs to be brighter.
I'd request a motion of some sort so that you could give us some exact guidance.
Okay, one question. So this was installed the way we approved it, correct? I mean, this
Yes.
was.
Yeah.
What, I mean, did it?
Agreement's agreement.
Yeah, that's what, I just wasn't sure if maybe it's a little bit, it's a few less lumens than what it said on the sheet. I mean, have we measured the lumens? No, I'm just kidding.
Is there a way that you can check to see if there's any other, besides the mock-up, if they can do a computer generated? Sarah, I mean,
I
we
can
need some
inquire
work-
with
we
them,
need
but
some-
honestly, I'm not sure if they do that. The previous, when we showed
We
you
don't
the
know unless you
the
ask.
design, that was done by Confluence and Dimensional Innovations. They were not the firm that provided you with the rendering of the sign beforehand. So I don't know if they could provide it. I can ask if that's what you're interested in.
I mean, I would be interested, but I mean, if we would need a decision, I don't know if we need a decision tonight, if we want a motion, I'll throw it out there, whether it passes or not, I don't know. I'll throw out a motion to do the mock-up and try to light up the sign a little more, and if it works, great, and try to go on, and if I hit the Powerball, I'll pay for it myself, so.
I'll second the motion.
Nobody wants to entertain the idea of just going ahead and pay the 3,000 and get it done.
Well, what if it's too bright? And then we sit here and talk about it being.
Well,
too
then we
bright.
could take some of the light bulbs out.
And then cost us.
My fear is we're gonna be
I
talking
could go
about
that way
this
too.
forever.
I could go either way. I could go either way.
Seems simple to
It's
me.
gonna cost us $2,000 to take the light bulbs out.
I agree with Zach. I think that, I agree that we should move forward with the demonstration, and then we should be able to have a decisive answer after that, even though I like the way it looks now. I'm not opposed to seeing it brighter and then having another opinion.
Okay, what happens then if we have the demonstration and we still don't like it?
We just don't spend any more.
Then you wouldn't
We've
proceed.
wasted more money on consultants and other stuff than, you can't tell me.
I know.
Yeah, what kind of stewardship of the citizens' taxpayer dollars is that?
You've wasted more money on consultants and other things on more than $1,000.
We waste money on consultants.
Yeah, that's some of them. I don't think we need them.
I don't,
Yeah, I said that.
Okay, we got a
Problem?
motion.
there's a motion and a second on the
We have
floor.
a motion and a second. Do you want me
Vote
to
on it.
call roll or?
We got a
Yeah.
motion and a
Let's
second.
call the roll.
Call a roll.
Okay, hang on.
What's the motion again?
Yeah, what's the motion?
The dimmers.
I already
The
said it. Go
motion
with the
is
mock-up.
to do the
Listen.
mock-up
I'm clear what I'm
demonstration.
voting.
Pay attention.
Okay, hang on, I gotta find a page.
We're
that-
getting nasty.
Okay, Councilmember Pierce,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman,
No.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart,
No.
Councilmember Stefan,
No.
Councilmember Farr,
No.
Councilmember DeLong,
It's all up to you.
By my count, that is 4-3.
Yeah, you tied up, let the
Yes.
mayor decide.
Yes, we'll do it. Yeah.
okay, Mayor, you've gotta make the tie.
Mr. Mayor, it's 4-4.
Tie, so you're the tiebreaker.
Pay the 3,000 and get it done.
That's not the
Not the
motion.
motion.
Not the motion.
That's not a motion.
Okay, okay.
Is that a yes?
That's a real.
Yes, let's do it.
Now we can blame it on the mayor.
Yeah.
I'll take the word if it doesn't work out.
Number 18.
Purchase of Tanemic property for water treatment plant and well rehabilitation project. Bill number 7407, ordinance number 9204.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the city councilor, Tom Barzee. Or actually, I'll call on the Public Works Director. I'll call on Mr. Hopper.
Thank you, sir. Burns and McDonald's construction plans for rehabbing the water treatment plant includes a new chlorination structure to be constructed on the northwest corner of the property. Within the same area, removal and replacement of the electrical distribution system is also planned. Burns and Mac advised staff that these two projects could be constructed at the same time to avoid adding several months to the construction schedule and increasing the project cost by more than $200,000. In order to accomplish this, it's necessary to acquire a total of approximately 1/4 of an acre from two different properties that are adjacent to and west of the city's water plant property boundary. The property needed is owned by two companies, Tanemic and Heartland Tires of Kansas City. Both companies have agreed to sell the portions of their property requested by the city. An agreement for the purchase of the Tanemic property and a separate agreement for the purchase of Heartland Tires property have been signed by both property owners. Resolutions approving the purchase of each of these properties have been prepared for consideration by the council tonight.
First reading.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance adopting and approving real estate purchase and sale agreement between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri as buyer and Tanemic Company Incorporated as seller for certain real property generally located immediately west of the city's water treatment plant at the intersection of Armour Road and Burlington in the city of North Kansas City, Missouri.
I move that bill number 7407 be placed on second and final reading and passed as bill number 9204.
Call a roll.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
An ordinance adopting and approving real estate purchase and sale agreement between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri as buyer and Tanemic Company Incorporated as seller for certain real property generally located immediately west of the city's water treatment plant at the intersection of Armour Road and Burlington in the city of North Kansas City, Missouri. Number 19.
Number 19.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Oh, 19.
Purchase of Heartland Tires property for water treatment plant and well rehabilitation project. Bill number 7408, ordinance number 9205.
First reading.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance adopting and approving real estate purchase and sale agreement between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri as buyer and Heartland Tires and Treads of Kansas City Incorporated as seller for certain real property generally located immediately north and west of the city's water treatment plant at the intersection of Armour Road and Burlington in the city of North Kansas City, Missouri.
I move that bill number 7408 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9205.
Second.
Call roll.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Steffen?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
An ordinance adopting and approving real estate purchase and sale agreement between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri as buyer and Heartland Tires and Treads of Kansas City Incorporated as seller for certain real property generally located immediately north and west of the city's water treatment plant at the intersection of Armour Road and Burlington in the city of North Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay, 20.
Approving accounts due and payable by the city through May 31st, 2019. Bill number 7410, ordinance number 9207.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through May 31st, 2019.
I move that bill number 7410 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9207.
Call roll.
Councilmember Pierce? Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Steffen?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through May 31st, 2019.
Mr. Herrick.
Thank you, sir. We have a number of staff comments tonight. I'll begin by calling on Ms. Copeland.
My staff comment tonight is a reminder that on Thursday evening, the Planning Commission will be holding the public hearing on the updated zoning ordinance. So months and months of work is culminating in that public hearing. Thursday evening, beginning at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. We published a notice in the Kansas City Star and also mailed notices to all persons who are within all property owners within 185 feet of a change on the zoning ordinance map. So you are welcome to come and attend that hearing and speak if you have any comments for the Planning Commission before they consider the updated ordinance. They will then make a recommendation to you that hopefully will be at your next meeting.
You say that's this Thursday at 6?
This Thursday, day after tomorrow, 6 p.m.
We got a couple back there that are a couple days early. Anything else?
Yes, sir. I'd like to call on the Fire Chief, Dave Hargis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to kind of keep you abreast on the situation with the river. There's a lot of stuff on the news about the flooding. We're in good shape here. Mr. Hopper and I have both had communications with the engineer for the levee district. And in the past 24 hours, the river level on our levee has actually dropped a foot, and it's predicted to keep going down at this point. So we did have some hydraulic pressure in the PID area yesterday because of that, and some of those effects lingered into this morning. We're watching that. I believe they did some work down there to try to repair some of that today, but we are keeping an eye on it, and at this time, we really don't have anything to worry about. The water has only reached the toe of the levee at this point, and like I said, it's going down right now, and it's predicted to keep going down at this time. So.
Did you have any follow-up on that?
Well, yeah, pardon me. When the river stage is over 32 feet, it's considered a moderate flood event. And history's shown that when it's over 32 feet, especially in long duration, we can expect street failures in the Paseo Industrial District. And sure enough, last night we had one, and it's pretty significant. It's going to be costly. We had the same place was failed in 2011 and repaired. So The contractor's already mobilized. They're going to begin tomorrow. Hope the weather ain't going to be that great, but they're going to start tomorrow. And staff will continue looking and observing daily the conditions of the streets, but we just hope they don't fall apart on us, this may not be the last one.
Is this affecting any of the businesses down there? I mean, as far as their buildings and their, the way they do operation? I mean, it's just the streets?
Yeah, right now, there's only one problem, and it doesn't affect any companies and their docks or anything. It's located in a good area not to do that.
Yeah, it's actually at 15th and Taney, if you're interested, and as Pat said, it is significant. I would like to follow up on your question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Regarding businesses. So, no, Pat's, has just said that it not at the moment. However, we've had, in years past, when we've had these kind of issues, and it does happen from time to time, we've had, it's gotten to the point where the streets themselves were actually spongy. And it's conceivable, depending upon how much more moisture we get over the course of the season, that conditions like that could come again. And so we actually have decided that we are going to send a letter out to all the PID businesses tomorrow. We're aiming to get it out in the mail tomorrow. That just, it tells them that we are seeing this, that it is something that is a concern. It's not something that it's hydrostatic pressure. It's not something that we have any ability to control. But we do just want them to know that we're aware of it, that we're watching it. And so I don't think there's anything more for us to do at this time, but it's just something to be concerned about. And the fact that we had a significant street failure out there in the last 24 hours due to this, this means it's something for us to watch very carefully.
And can you let them know in the correspondence to contact us?
Yes.
If there's, okay.
Yes, we're doing
If they've noticed any
Yes,
issues?
exactly, we are doing
And was
that.
this like a sinkhole sort of situation, or what? Okay.
That's what it is.
I'll have to go check that out.
I'll provide the letter to you that we're sending. It does have a few
Carefully.
pictures, as you can see, of that sinkhole, but, yeah,
Huh. Okay, yeah, send us some.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
So, yes, sir.
I have a question on the flooding or the water. It's not the PID, but I noticed the last big storm we had, that torrential rain. I noticed on the streets, it was over the curbs. It was like a little lake out there. And then it dropped pretty quick. And I had a gentleman ask me earlier, I know the pumps had to be kicking in when it happens, it sucks the water down. But do those come on automatically at a stage, or do they have to be told to come on?
Well, that's a good question that has been asked a lot, and they were activated and remain activated in the middle of March. And what that means is there's a float, so when the water gets to a certain level, they kick on.
Oh, okay.
And not only that, all three pumps, each pump station has 3 pumps, and they were all 3 running at the same time.
Oh, I bet.
And that's just,
But if you've never seen it happen, when those streets were full, and all of a sudden that pumps, you can tell the pumps kick in,
Well, they're going solid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it just.
I just wonder about the automatic, or somebody had to throw a switch, or.
Yeah, the issue is that when the pipes fill up with water completely full, there's nowhere else for the water to go, and so it does back up on the street until it's like a funnel.
Yeah.
And once the funnel is cleared, then the water can start going down again.
Yeah,
But
there was no complaints about it. It's just, I just wonder if those pumps came on automatically or not. And they do.
And then just a few other items very quickly. First of all, the upcoming city items. The note report is in your packet, along with YMCA monthly financial report from April of 2019. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. With regard to the mock-up scheduling that you approved earlier tonight, our intention would probably be, it's hard to get all of you together at the same time. So and of course we have to do this in the dark, and we're now into the longest days of the year. But my thought would be that we try to arrange for this after a council meeting. You're all available.
Yes.
So I don't know that it'll be the next council meeting. We'll talk to the sign company. We'll get it arranged as soon as we can. But that's what I think we'd like to try to aim for. So it could be that you'll have to, there'll be a little bit of a wait in between adjournment and reassembling down to take a look at it, but if
You'd
that's.
feed us supper, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we want,
Yeah.
have stop
Dinner.
signs.
A midnight snack, perhaps.
That's part of the one.
And then lastly, some good news. You have from time to time asked us what's the status of the Burger King transaction. So I'm pleased to report. I think Councilmember Farr has asked that the most often. So I think I'm pleased to report that the transaction on the land swap, essentially, that was arranged and approved by the council in concept quite some while ago, has been closed today. That occurred. The existing Burger King site is now property of the city. The former Hapco site is now the property of the Burger King. We will be leasing the current Burger King. They will be renting it from us, paying us a lease payment, until they have a new restaurant that is built on their new site, at which time we would then end that lease and demolish the existing restaurant and open that area up for development. And also, there has been grading going on the new Burger King site, and we have issued a building permit for that site. So you should see a lot of activity in the months ahead, and full speed ahead there on that matter. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Let's see, Rita, you're up.
I'm up first. I don't have a lot of things to say. I just wanted to thank Richard Groves. He sent me an email today, and he painstakingly managed to find 3 dates, which miraculously all worked first time out for me to start visiting some of the businesses in my ward. I appreciate your efforts in that regard, making those contacts, and I look forward to doing 3 visits in June. So thank you very much for doing that, and I look forward to doing more visits as time and your schedule allows for you to arrange it. Thank you, Richard.
First off, I think this is excellent, the tourism use of funds. And Kim, thank you for setting that up. I think it's going to be really great for the city and hopefully a program that grows over time. I did have one question that I sort of alluded to earlier. The point where Armour meets Burlington, there's 2 lanes that go left and 1 that goes right. It doesn't seem that people are figuring out how to use those lanes very well, because the 2 lanes going left will kind of merge into one, back up down Armour, and then block off the right turn. I don't know if that's been brought up, or I ended up sitting for a little while the light backed things up and we couldn't turn right. So just something to take a look at. And then my final thing is just I would be remiss to not mention how dapper Mr. Barzee looks in his seersucker suit. It's a great summer look.
You're getting a compliment, Tom.
We're used to it. The dapperness.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to congratulate Jay and Carl for their reappointments to the TIF Commission. And I also like the tourism suggestion that we talked about in the work session today, so thank you for your work on that. Excited to see some things moving forward, the Armour Road Complete Street Program, and also the wayfinding signage, and also the Burger King, which was great. Pat, I will not harass you today about the alley repairs in North Gay Village, since you have bigger problems, but maybe next time. And as a reminder, Arts in the Park, June 14th and 15th, and with a Friday night concert by Cherry Bomb, who I think is amazing. So I think they're the bomb. Cherry Bomb's the bomb. That's all I have for tonight.
Couple of quick things. Well, I want to echo Councilmember Smith's and Pyramid's comments on the tourism. I think that's a good use of funds, and I'm glad that we've doing that. And I wanted to kind of give a shout out, and I think he already got bored and left. But Joe Gower has done a lot of work on social media for the River North, and trying to promote businesses in North Kansas City, and he's not getting paid for it. So a lot of it's volunteers. So I wanted to give him a shout out for all his hard work. And let's see, the YMCA report, happy to see that they made money this month. The only other question I had too, when we were talking about signal replacements, and I know we were talking about in the commercial district, downtown, I know that we've still got some of those old signals with like those orange buttons, and sometimes you push them, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, for like the crosswalks like what's over there by First Watch, which street is that?
Yeah.
Erie?
Fayette,
Yeah.
and a few others. Are we eventually gonna be replacing some of those old signal crossing things?
It has not been brought to my attention that they don't work.
Or maybe I'm not pushing, I mean, they're not marked real well about the button you push, which way it, so.
I'll take a look at it. Get back with you.
Yeah.
That's it.
I know Shirley is on vacation, right? Somebody,
Yes, sir.
If you see her, I don't know if somebody with a good job like that takes a vacation, but tell her internet billing system worked great. It's got a, your picture of it, just like your bill. It's a-
just like your bill, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it, because I like anything that doesn't come in the mail anymore, because the mailman doesn't deliver half the time. But anyway, the emails work great. I asked about the pumps. Here it is June, and I think it was around March, we was promised bicycle racks at the Parks Building, so people can lock up their bicycles. It is the bicycle lane, trail, but, wheel trail anyway. It's not there yet. I drive by every day waiting to see it. And, if they can't keep little promises like that, their big promises they want in the future may be affected by it.
I'm Liz Ryan with the Park Board. I talked to Kelly after we had the last meeting. She said she was working on it. I went over there and she was looking at a catalog for bike racks. She was not there today, but I will address it tomorrow.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. I know it, it don't take months to get a bicycle rack, but I guess it did. So, thank you for your part.
Thank you.
And there is a light, 23rd and Howe. I wrote it down, southeast corner, that's covered by a tree. You can't see now you got plenty, you got another one right across the street for the same direction, but you might want to trim that tree. It's a city tree, and it is covering all three colors or whatever.
No,
Just
thank you.
something to add to your list.
After the alleys in Northgate Village.
Yeah, we gotta get the
That you
alley
weren't gonna
fixed.
mention.
We just wish we had alleys down there in the avenues. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, I think things have been mentioned on the Arts in the Park Fine Arts Fair and also the Friday night concert. But I want to thank Pat Harbour for work that he's done that I asked about on concerning a constituent in a maple wood tree. That's all I have.
That I just want to thank the Public Works, because after the storm, there's always trucks going around picking up the limbs out of people's yards. I want to thank you for that. I mean, that's a great service, because, my property backs up to Kansas City, Missouri, and they're set out there for weeks, if not months, so tell the guys thanks on that.
I will do. Thank
And
you.
the police and fire department, I just want to say thank you guys for just being who you are.
All right, my computer died, so I had to recall some of my stuff, because this could be a mess. First, I want to thank all the staff that work on medical marijuana. After attending a lot of conferences and being around other municipal officials, we're well ahead of a lot of Missouri cities. So I think some are still really scrambling to figure out some things we just started discussing last October. So thank you guys for your work on that. Also, last Thursday, did a tour of the Rabbit Hole. They finished up their fabrication shop and they had to open it up for tours. So got the tour of that. It's good to see that project continue to progress along. Also, groundbreaking last week. We got to see a lot of dirt move around over in 1 North, and that's always good to actually see dirt move and things coming up out of the ground. So progress being made over there. Also a reminder, this upcoming Saturday is Second Saturday. Since we talked about it earlier, figured might as well throw out. It'll be a great day to go out around town, find specials, and okay, I'm wrapping up. They're putting on their hard hats here. Fine, that's it. No kidding. Enjoy the town on Second Saturday.
I had just had one other question that I just thought of when we were talking about Art in the Park and the Friday night concerts. I know that they had a shade structure that we had approved for the bands or whatever. Is that up yet, or is it behind schedule?
No, it would be it will come back to you at some point, but it's, I believe, a design is still being arranged, is my understanding, so.
I'm still looking. Okay.
You don't have anything?
I don't got nothing. Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.